every single time, I really hate breaking up all the conversations that are happening because I think so much happens. We get so much done during these conversations. But we got to get started because I'm pretty sure people want to get out here by 11:30 this morning sometime. I'm Sean Riley, the Mayor of the City of Waukesha. Welcome. It's very, very nice to see everyone here. It's very nice to have the Celebrate Waukesha occur again. It's been 18 months since our last one. It was December of 2019, and just think back to then, what we didn't know about what was coming down the road, and all the changes that have occurred. First of all, we didn't have a new City Hall at that point. The Great Water Alliance hadn't started construction yet. I was wearing a suit probably 3 times a week at least. Now I wear it about once a month, it seems like. Hang on a second. This was not part of our outfit either. So. But it's very, very nice to be back, and let's hope that the future proceeds smoothly. We have, I want to thank those, we have our elected officials that are attending, Representative Scott Allen, and Waukesha County Supervisors Paul Decker, Mike Crawley, Dwayne Paulson, and Larry Nelson, coming over here. Our Waukesha County Sheriff, Eric Stevenson, is here. We have our Common Council members, Don Brown, Dean Lemke, Rick Lemke, Lenny Miller, Elizabeth Bolton, and Joe Piper. I don't know if I'm missing anyone. I know I'm not seeing. Hopefully, I didn't make a mistake there. So I'm going to be quick. I welcome everyone here. And we have a great program. We also, real quick, I guess I want to say, there's tons of events that the City of Waukesha puts on. And they've been scrolling on the screen prior to this. Tonight we have our Tribute Tuesday, which is Never Leave Brothers down at Cutler Park. Ray's Grain is having a beer. We have food there. It's supposed to be great weather. It's a great time. We have our gala coming up. There's on the table, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, there's a table out there with a whole bunch of handouts. But that's our gala is our 125th party. It's Friday, November 12th, 2021 at the historic courthouse, which is just a phenomenal building. We have Oktoberfest coming up. That's also a great time. So educate yourself if you're not already educated on all the events that the City of Waukesha has, and please participate in them. It makes our community better. So with that, I'm going to introduce Kevin Lehner, who is going to kick off our program. And please welcome Kevin Lehner.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks everyone for being here this morning. I appreciate you all coming out. Just wanted to share a couple of things related to the city real quick, and then get to our program. The first things that I just wanted to mention is that, of course, we have finished our new City Hall, and I'm very, very proud of that building. If you get a chance to take a look at it, please do. There's lots of folks in the building that will give you the initial tour. So the mayor is our best tour guide, so if you want to stop up in our office and grab the mayor, he'll give you a tour. Pretty much any time of the day, because he's there all the time. We also are in the middle of a major renovation expansion project of our police department. So if you've been down to Delafield, no, we haven't sold our police department to a construction company. We're trying to make it look that way because all the cops are not there right now as we're remodeling and expanding our police department. So that project will be completed here in 2022, and we're very excited about that project. We're also doing in the beginning stages of a lot of redevelopment work around downtown. And so over the next couple of years, you're going to see almost 400 more units of housing downtown. Starting this fall, Mandel is going to be bringing a little over 100 units down by the riverside on a development site that we've been working on for a very long time, and we're very excited to see that project going forward. We also have another project moving through the approval process down near the river that's being brought from the general capital, and we're very excited about that project moving forward through the approval process. And then one of the greatest things about our new City Hall project is that we designed that project with redevelopment in mind. So over the next couple of years, we're going to be doing a redevelopment project, which we call the Across the Street property, which is where the annex is and where the police department is currently temporarily housed. We're working with the development firm on a senior project there. And then on the pad next door to us, where the old City Hall was, that nobody was sad to see torn down. We're going to be doing another redevelopment project there with a developer there. So we're very excited about some of the redevelopment work that's going on in and around the city, and we're looking forward to new things. As it comes to the future for this next year, finally done building buildings for a while, so it's going to be a pretty standard capital improvement program moving forward. We're continuing to work on roads. We have reconstruction of St. Paul Avenue going on. And if you've run into construction anywhere in southeast Wisconsin, it is probably our water project. And Dan Lukiak, I don't know if he's here today, is the water utility manager. So if you are late for something, if you're trying to get somewhere, call Dan Lukiak. Our water project. We're very proud of the water project that's going forward. It's on track. It's a tremendous construction project. It's a tremendous partnership that we did with City of Milwaukee. It's very looking forward to turn the spigot on our water connection in very soon. And so I'm going to, and then last but not least, we had just a great year in terms of celebrating the 125th anniversary. And so we've had several events that we've weaved into the 125th anniversary celebration. And folks have really enjoyed what we've been doing. We've been present at Friday Night Live. So one of the famous people from Waukesha is Olympian Gwen Jorgensen. We'll have a cardboard cutout of famous people who wants to take a picture with. Gwen Jorgensen's family took a picture with the cardboard cutout of the day. We're very excited about that. Yeah, Oktoberfest is going to have 125th celebration piece of it. We've been celebrating 125th all over town through different events. We have Waukesha Unlocked coming up. And so you get to get the inside scoop on a bunch of the very unique buildings within Waukesha. That should be a very exciting event. Just the team that have been putting those events on, I'm very proud of their work and what they've been doing over this last year, just celebrating Waukesha and our community. So with that, I'm going to invite up our speakers for today. We have with us the Executive Director of the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, or otherwise known as Sewer PAC, which is our regional planning agency in Southeast Wisconsin. Kevin supervises the Commission's advisory regional planning efforts in the areas of transportation, land use development, and environmental resources. And prior to that, he helped complete the development of Vision 2050, Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Land Use and Transportation Plan. And we also have with us our Director of Planning, Maria Bandani, and she is going to join us and talk about our vision for the future in our comprehensive planning update. So please help join me in welcoming Maria and Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin, for that introduction. And as Kevin said, I'm Kevin Hughes. Kevin, Executive Director of the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, or Sewer PAC. We were named when we were founded back in 1960 and haven't changed the name since. So, what I'm going to do in my kind of continuous presentation with Maria is I'm going to provide a little bit of introduction of who we are. And the reason we're here today is that we are assisting the city with the comprehensive plan effort, which is Maria is going to spend quite a bit of time talking about for her presentation. So briefly, just who is the Regional Planning Commission? We're an advisory body that was set up through state statutes way back in the late 50s, early 60s. So we just celebrated our 60th year last year. And we serve the 7 county regions, so Ozaukee, Washington, Milwaukee, Waukesha, Racine, Kenosha, and Walworth counties, those 7 counties, the 147 cities, villages, and towns within those 7 counties. And it's a region of about 2 million people and 1.3 million jobs. When we serve those units of government, we do it as an advisory planning agency. And the things we cover as laid out in state statutes are anything related to land use development, the use of land in the region, and anything related to our physical infrastructure. Okay, sounds good. And so that physical infrastructure piece includes things like our transportation infrastructure, water supply, water treatment, and also flood management, among other things. And then when it comes to land use, we talk about, of course, where things should be built and how they should be built, but also housing in the region, keeping housing affordable for a wide variety of people, and also protecting specific types of land across the region that are particularly high in environmental value. I'm not going to talk too much about the water supply plan today, but since the city is well underway on tapping into Lake Michigan water, I just want to talk about that as a good example of how regional plans can turn into action when you've got great partners like the city of Waukesha and other communities in the region. And so that planning effort that eventually turned into the city accessing Lake Michigan water was called the Regional Water Supply Plan. We're very creative with that name. What that did is it did look region-wide at our future expected population growth, our future expected job growth, where those people and jobs were going to be located, we expected, and then determined who might need, for various reasons, different sources of water than they have today. So in some parts of the region that meant moving from private wells to municipal sewers, whether it's or municipal water supply, whether it is well or Lake Michigan, and in some parts of the region it meant, like it does for the city of Waukesha, that the best solution given concerns about the minerals in the water and the content of the water, that the best and safest solution was tapping into Lake Michigan. And of course, we're very fortunate to have that as a potential water supply within range in our region. And so I want to say this because I think it's something that we tried to talk about as an agency and we didn't really do a great job of getting it through, is not only was that the best solution, tapping Lake Michigan water, was the best solution for the city and its residents, it was also the best solution for the environmental areas around the city. And the conversation often turned into this, taking Lake Michigan water is the anti-environmental solution. That's really not true, because the obvious other solution to the city's challenge was tapping shallow wells. And those shallow wells are directly connected to all the surface waters you see around the city of Waukesha, including sensitive areas like the Vernon Marsh that are very important. And so we tried to talk about that. I don't think people always believed us. But I always take any opportunity I can to reiterate that. Not only was it a great public works solution, it was also a great environmental solution to take advantage of our access to Lake Michigan water in the region. So, in addition to those things, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that relates more directly to work we've done recently or underway, and that is Vision 2050. Kevin mentioned that in my introduction, and that is our regional land use and transportation plan. We are an advisory agency, but we do have a federal role, which is called a Metropolitan Planning Organization. And in order for a transportation project in the region to use federal or in many cases state funds as well, it needs to be in our long-range transportation plan. And so that is one way that we do try to coordinate across different counties and different municipalities to ensure our infrastructure is we hope, well planned. And so Vision 2050 was the 6th generation of our long-range regional plans for southeastern Wisconsin. And it has a lot of detail. The whole thing's about 2,000 pages long. So I'm going to sum it up into 5 bullets here. And these bullets are really key to the comprehensive planning effort that Maria is going to talk about, especially given the political solution that was determined for water supply, which is that the water supply area for the city of Waukesha is essentially fixed for the future. And so this really relates to what the city is now focusing on and has to focus on for the future because of that political agreement, which is to reinvest in our urban cores across the region. And that's a very consistent recommendation across Vision 2050, that it doesn't benefit the region to relocate development away from areas that have already been developed. We are a stronger region, our tax base is stronger, our government services are more efficient and cheaper overall if we have the type of redevelopment that the city of Waukesha is undertaking at a pretty substantial pace right now. We also have long recommended and continue to recommend protecting areas with high environmental value. And also important to the city and our regional conversation, and I know County Executive Farrow has talked quite a bit about this as well, is we've got a series of recommendations around reducing regulatory burdens and other programs or efforts that could allow us to build a variety of housing types. So yes, building more apartments, condos, things like that within the region, but also making sure that single-family homes are affordable as a starter home situation, which we really have struggled with over the past 15 or so years in this region. And there's some things we can't control around like the price of lumber in that, but there's also things we can control on the local level around how hard we make it to build those single-family homes and the restrictions we put on lot size and structure size and things like that. And so there's some recommendations in the plan around that too. On the transportation side, very important is to make sure that we maintain our very high quality of transportation service on our roads. We have a relatively small amount of congestion in this region compared to our peers, and we've got recommendations for how to maintain that in the plan and what investments to make. And then also importantly is expanding access to things, jobs, education, healthcare, other important things for those that can't drive or don't want to drive, which means things like investing in the city and the county's transit system, or investing as the county and others have done in bike facilities in the city as well, and bike facilities across the region, and making it easier to walk and get around by foot or wheel as well. So those sorts of things are very consistent with what we think would be a great idea for the direction the city should have in its comprehensive plan. But I'll leave that more to Maria as well. As I already noted, we're an advisory agency, so in some cases our opinion may not matter on that. I did want to note other things that we do and how they may be interrelated to what Maria is going to talk about. So things that are currently underway, we've got 3 major regional efforts underway right now. One is called the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which is a nice mouthful. We didn't name that one, the federal government did. But what it is a 5-year strategy under the auspices of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And the idea is to create a framework and an action plan that aligns the 7 counties and their regional economic development, other regional economic development organizations within the counties, and then of course M7 as well, around a single framework and action plan to pursue over the next 5 years. M7 brands this as Prosperity 2025, so the SEDS and Prosperity 2025 are very interrelated and very similar things. We're essentially just reframing Prosperity 2025 so that the region is eligible for Department of Commerce grants. And those grants can go to public works projects or anything essentially related to a project that would attract or retain jobs in the region. And so that's the purpose of this effort. And of course, comprehensive planning is also an exercise in economic development as well, and is very much related. I won't spend too much time on this one, but I do want to note 2 things because they are important to Waukesha County and the city of Waukesha. And so we are working on what's called a Regional Chloride Impact Study. This is probably the most technical thing we are working on right now. What we're trying to do is monitor salt in the region's waterways, lakes, rivers, and streams, and determine the amounts, which we've pretty much figured out now, but also what are the sources and what share of all that salt is coming from different sources. The reason that we are doing this study is actually a request out of Walworth County in the Geneva Lake area, because they don't have a lot of roads within the watershed in Geneva Lake, and yet the salt content of the lake is increasing rapidly. And so part of this study is figuring out how much of it is coming from other sources, like agricultural sources or water softeners. And so that's the reason I'm mentioning that is because as the city switches over to lake water, it's a great opportunity for everybody who lives in the city to get rid of your water softener. because the salt that is put in as part of the water softening process can't be removed in a water treatment fashion. And so it does go into the rivers and lakes in the region. And not too big of a deal for most of the rivers in the region because it washes through just with all the other water. But it is a big deal for our inland lakes. We have multiple lakes in the region that are very close to what's called brackish, which is what the EPA term is for when the human tongue can taste salt in the water. And so our lakes, some of our lakes are transitioning into tasting salty, and then quickly beyond brackish, you get to the point where it makes it hard for freshwater fish and things like that to exist in the lakes across the region. And so we are working on that and trying to figure out how we can move forward in a way that reduces costs. Like, not everybody will have to, if you switch to Lake Michigan water, you don't have to pay the Pelican Man every month. Or pay for that salt. And also road salt is another big one, and Waukesha County is doing a great job on this. There's a technique called brining. If you've ever seen those white streaks on the road in the winter, kind of white lines on the road that they put down before a storm comes, that's a special process that blends the salt into a liquid, essentially, combined with water and some other things. And it allows you to use much less salt, and it actually prevents ice forming much more effectively than throwing down the rock salt after the storm has already started coming. So that's another example where it saves the communities money in the long term because rock salt is expensive, but it also is more effective and better for public safety as well. So those are the sorts of solutions we're trying to identify. And then one more major regional effort that's underway right now is the Regional Food System Plan. We are working on this effort to try to do kind of two main things. So one is try to increase access to food in places that don't have great access to grocery stores, which is a lot of our historic urban cores across the region. Not easy to get to them for the residents that live in those areas. So increase access to good and healthy food. But also, very importantly, we've got substantial rural parts of the region, and farming from a financial perspective has become really challenging, particularly dairy. That's made a lot of headlines, but other types of farming as well are really struggling to keep the farm in the family and to keep it on a smaller scale, that where the money from that farming exercise stays locally and that business stays locally and doesn't become just part of a national entity. And so we're also trying to figure out through this planning effort best practices that we can pursue as a region to try to maintain our legacy and our current existing robust level of family farming. This is also an economic development opportunity, because something else we do in this region is we do export a lot of food, as far as turning it into a canned food item or beer or something else like that, and sending it across the country and the world. So it is also an economic development effort from that perspective as well, to increase continue to grow our food and beverage manufacturer presence in the region. And finally, I just want to mention one thing that we are working on right now for the city of Waukesha and Waukesha County. So in addition to our regional efforts, a lot of our staff time is actually spent on community-specific efforts that those communities or counties can request from us. And so a couple years ago now, the city and the county did jointly request a Waukesha area transit plan from the commission. This was pre-COVID. And so I will say this is still ongoing. We thought it would be done by now because we had to take a bit of a pause for a couple of reasons related to COVID, but most importantly for this planning effort, because there was a moment in which no one really knew what the future of transit looked like, and that moment lasted several months. And so it's still an open question in some ways, but we now have more data that we can use to try to plan. And so the focus of this is improving access, and very importantly, that means giving more people who can't drive or choose not to drive access to more jobs, which increases the labor force pool for employers across the region, which is a key issue in our region right now, and also increasing efficiency within the transit system. The city of Waukesha, as an example, and Waukesha County have been running very similar transit systems for a very long time, and this plan is an opportunity to look at whether or not a new type of service may be better for different parts of the city or different parts of the county. And there are different ways to do that, including using a lot more app-based services as a potential option as well. So we're exploring that as part of this. There's also, I do want to mention, a really strong corridor in the city of Waukesha and Waukesha County, which is the corridor from essentially where we are, from downtown Waukesha to downtown Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Regional Medical Center in between. And so that is the city and county's best bus route, is the Blue Mountain Road and Moreland Boulevard bus route, Route 1. And so as part of this study, we are also looking at a specific effort on how to invest in that and make it more attractive and get, again, more people to jobs and more access to shopping and things like that along that corridor. So we hope to have some conclusions from that by the end of the year as well to present to the county board and the county council. With that, I will turn it over to Maria. Very briefly is my contact information, but if you actually want to talk to me, I'll stick around and come up afterwards and answer. So, thank you.
So good morning. Wanted to talk a little bit today about the city's comprehensive plan, and having Kevin here is really valuable because it will begin to show how we fit in with the bigger region and why that's important as well. I want to go through 5 questions, not going to be real long, five key questions. Why should we have a comprehensive plan at all? Why are we doing it now? Why didn't we do it 2 years ago? Why aren't we going to do it 2 years from now? What exactly is a comprehensive plan? Because some of you may be like, okay, plan is comprehensive, but what's the stuff? What's it made out of? And then, let's see, there were 5 questions, that's 3. The third one is how do we get from where we are today to where we finish line? And then, excuse me, how all of you can be involved. I know all of you want to stay involved in this. So first of all, why should we have a plan? It's a tool. It's a tool to guide the physical, social, and economic development of the city. And engaging in a formal process where we're getting input from lots of different people, lots of different demographics, different types of organizations that all make up the community. It's really important to have that interactive exercise with folks. And the plan helps us see where we are now, but also where we've been. So it will track kind of our development through time and then help us envision where we want to go. So, oh yeah, there's one more word. It's a real rational basis for our elected officials to create policies and make decisions about our future. So with that, there's a little, Kevin didn't want us to do planning exercises like all planners like to do, but I couldn't help it. So on your table, there's a little card that just asks 2 simple questions, because this is part of the information gathering. So what is Waukesha's greatest strength and what's Waukesha's greatest challenge? You can stay completely anonymous if you want. But if you want to talk more about this, you could fill your name out and we can talk more about it later. But if you want to stay anonymous, that's fine too. So feel free to do that during the conversation. And that's kind of our first step in information gathering, just kind of looking at what our strengths are and our challenges. So why are we doing this plan now? Our current comprehensive plan was adopted in 2009, and it's about 12 years old. We've made small changes to it as time has gone on in those 12 years. Land use changes. Most recently, in 2019, we incorporated the findings of our housing study and needs analysis into that element and associated chapters. So it hasn't been just sitting on the shelf. We've been looking at it, using it, and updating it as we needed, but we haven't taken a look at the whole thing in total. And also, the state requires us to do it every 10 years. But we'd be doing it regardless. Also, as Kevin mentioned, and what is very, very important, is that we are not in the same place as we were 12 years ago. Redevelopment is really more critical now than expansion outwards. And we need to do it well. We have one chance at it, and we need to do it well. And there's one other reason is, we have continued workforce and housing challenges throughout the region. And we want to make sure that we're fitting in with a regional solution to those things. Also, new census data. It's late, but it's coming. And that will give us the most accurate information that we can have to base decisions on. So it's time to get an accurate picture of our existing conditions to make the best decisions for our future. So, next question, what does it look like? What's in this thing, this comprehensive plan? The state requires us to address 9 things in the plan. First is issues and opportunities. So, the little cards will help us identify those, but then we'll be having other ways to get at that as well, with data and also interactive exercises with the community. So the next element is housing. We've done the housing study in 2019, but we'll be updating and looking at that, seeing where if that data is still valid. I'm not going to talk a lot about each of the elements, so don't worry. Filling this wheel here. Transportation, as Kevin mentioned, it's not just about cars anymore. It's about multiple modes of transportation. Can somebody get there walking? Can somebody get there biking? Is it even an option? Can somebody that lives in Milwaukee get to a job in Waukesha? Can somebody that lives in Waukesha get to a job in Milwaukee? We need to look at that and how we fit in with that solution. Land use, we want to look at what we have now and where we want to grow in the future. Economic development kind of ties into lots of these things, but let's inventory our labor force, our economic base, and identify areas where we can grow. Utilities and community facilities is a weird thing that the state, I think, lumps together. So they clump roads with schools and libraries, and so we want to look and identify all of our utilities and community facilities, so hospitals, libraries, parks. Where are they? Are they in the right places? Where do we need to improve? And are there areas that are being underserved by some of those facilities? Cultural and natural resources. Another, what makes Waukesha Waukesha and other communities, their own community, is their culture, their history, and their resources. So we want to take a look and inventory our cultural resources, our historic, looking at historic preservation, but also looking at the natural resources within our community that we want to make sure we preserve and utilize to the best of our ability. It looks like I didn't finish that sentence, but let's look away from it. And then we need to cooperate. So we fit in with the county, within the region, within the state, just keep, we're all connected. So we want to identify areas where there are real possibilities for joint planning and decision making, and take positive actions on those. And then finally, implementation. We don't want this to sit on the shelf, so the state wants us to look at how we can implement these goals that are identified throughout. So this graphic was my attempt to show you that natural resources isn't in a column or a tower by itself, and then economic development over here and housing over there. They all have to work together. If they don't work together, then we don't really have a whole comprehensive plan. And if I was more skilled, I would show another field that's like the county and the region, and then it's the big machine all working together. So this is just our little cog in the regional puzzle. So those are the 9 elements that the state requires, but we wanted to take it a step farther this time around also, and really look at how sustainability can weave throughout all of these elements. There's a place for it, and we need to identify how we can make that happen in all of these elements. So think this is my fourth, 5 questions. How do we get there? Right now, Sewer Pack is helping us inventory all of our existing conditions and forecasting trends and just gathering a great amount of information and distilling it down. We have a 3-pronged approach to community outreach, which I'll get to in my next slide. And then we're gonna, after we gather all this information, we're gonna develop a plan around all of those elements. And then there'll be open houses and time for public input and so forth. What I also want to talk to you a little bit about is that 3-pronged approach to community outreach and public participation. We're underway now in developing an online survey. We can also have hard copies if people need them, but it'll be designed to reach a wide audience. We'd like to see if we can do it in multiple languages as well, to get a broad cross-section of our community. We'd like to have sub-area meetings in different areas of the city to really drill down to specifics. Something that's on, say, St. Paul is very different than something that's down in the Rivers Crossing neighborhood. So those neighbors and businesses around there may have different things that they want to talk about. So we want to do that throughout the city. And then there's another thing that we want to have, because we're not experts in everything. I like to tell my family I am, but they don't believe me. So we want to have advisory groups in different areas of these 9 elements. We're probably not going to have 9 of them, we can bunch them together. But we want to get input from folks that are experts in different areas to take a look at our inventories, to take a look at recommendations as we begin to develop them. So, how can you participate? Handout number 2. The half sheet of paper. If you would like to continue to be involved, get more information, please fill this out today. There's different ways, I put an other on there so you can say, I want a phone call every Thursday, and the mayor will do that for you. Along with the tours, when he's not doing the tours of City Hall, but there's different ways you can, lots of different levels to participate. Just encourage employees or members of your organization or clubs that you all represent. I see, there's about 100 people here, but you all represent and have contacts with lots more people beyond. So you can encourage people to participate in the survey. You can be a member of one of the plan advisory groups or come to a subcommittee or sub-area meetings. And then just helps us to identify, your companies and your organizations best, let us know how you feel you can best fit into the plan. So with that, you can ask Kevin some questions. Or me.
Questions? Okay, Larry, you have a question?
So the sewer pack plan gets us to 2050. How many years is the City of Waukesha comprehensive plan going to cover? Is it a 5-year plan or longer? Or is it possible?
Well, we should be updating it every 10 to 12 or 12, but we'd like to 10 more years to take a look at it. But we want to plan out for
It'll be a 10-year plan.
2050. We're planning out for 2050, but we want to look at it again.
12 years ago, we did the first City of Waukesha strategic plan. Is this like a strategic plan or different?
Jennifer? Maria, come on up here. See, I said Larry would have questions. Which are good questions, thank you.
They are good questions, but next time we need to submit them in advance. It's similar, I would say, to a strategic plan. I think a strategic plan, and Kevin, we've got folks and other planners in the room to chime in. kind of off base here. I think a strategic plan gets down to a little deeper level, like really looks at more detail. So comprehensive plan is a little bit higher level of looking at issues. That answer your question?
Yes, it's related to 13 years ago, we did the first City of Waukesha strategic plan and tied it into the budget at that time. So will this comprehensive plan lead to a more detailed new strategic plan?
It probably should lead to like a lot of things, might look at, more detailed planning on transportation, more detailed planning on, a housing strategy or natural resource or park, the park plan. Actually, that's something that Park Rec has talked to us about, wanting to kind of tie it into the comp plan right now, but the timing wasn't exactly right. But they will be using the information in this plan to get to a more detailed level of park plan.
Great, thank you very much.
Also a lot of, Maria, don't leave here. Also a lot of opportunity for input as this plan is being developed too. So,
well, one of the challenges is we're talking about water costs, utilities costs. How do you define this as well as helping the budgetary process through this time that you set up in 5 years and tie it back to your budget?
go ahead, Kevin. Yeah, no. You're doing a lot better job than I can.
But I think if we're doing this right, the idea would be that this supports both sides of the budget question. So part of the conversation is revenue, right? So what types of economic development, what types of redevelopment generate the most sustainable and hopefully permanent revenue sources for the city, particularly from a property tax levy perspective, and then the reducing burden for everybody, and we spread it across more property and more value. And then also, if you are doing your development right and you're planning it right, it should be efficient too. So it should hold down as best we can the overall cost of your municipal services. So that's the hope. That's what we're going to try to plan for.
Follow up to that, then, is because you're applying for so use of your land, use of your footprints, and critical because that.
Exactly.
So, planning that into your infrastructure, so we'll call service buildings, smaller buildings, for better use of you're looking at that as well.
Yes, I mean, yeah, I would say, but at least Maria's, I don't want to speak for you, but that, from my perspective, that's one of the main reasons that it is time to do this planning effort in it, is that that situation has changed around the Pittsburgh city. And the city of Waukesha isn't the only community across the region that faces that challenge, but it is a different challenge that if you have the ability to annex and to serve one area and certain things. So, yeah, absolutely.
And I would just add one thing to that as well. For those of you who didn't hear the question, it was, is the fact that our borders are essentially fixed now changing, that we need to develop more density and taller things. And yes, I mean it is, and we've been looking actually not just because of this comprehensive plan, but for several years now, at when we look at new developments, we're looking at acre rather than just one particular development. So looking, and where is it? It's in more dense areas. It's in where we look up and not out, that we get a value for it.
Wayne?
Yeah, I just want to, one of the slides is that the comprehensive plan is adopted. City of Waukesha uses it as a guideline for the
It was adopted in 2012, 2009.
But it wasn't, it hasn't been adopted on the city of Waukesha.
Yeah, it was adopted by the city of Waukesha, as my understanding. I mean, I wasn't there then, but Jennifer's in the same, yes, it was adopted by the common council at that time. So, all right. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. I'm going to kind of try to wrap this up, which is our comprehensive plan is extremely important to do. It requires a lot of input, there's no question about that. We've already talked about some of the things that where we know the city of Waukesha is, which is somewhat defined boundaries, and we've been telling the common council, and I think the common council has heard this pretty clearly, that we need to get more value per acre. We've been working on that, but that's also part of the plan. Sustainability will be something new in our plan. So the comprehensive plan is important to do. Once we get it done, it's important to follow. And once it's adopted and we are following, it's also important to revise it as needed. Things change, and your comprehensive plan is an overarching document which tries to provide input for all the day-to-day, year-to-year decisions of the municipality, and try to figure things out. The goal is to turn the plan that is adopted into action. And that's probably the most difficult thing. I've been involved in municipal government for more than 35 years. You have a lot of plans. How much they are actually used by the municipality is always an open question. It is difficult because the plan will be this much paper. For all the people who are involved in municipal government to be aware of everything that's in that plan year over year is always difficult, but our goal is to make a good plan and then to follow that plan. I want to thank, out in the hallway there we have a big banner that shows our 125th anniversary sponsors, and many of them are here today. We've done a lot of events, we've done a lot of different things this year to highlight 125 years of Waukesha as a city. We couldn't have done it without our sponsors, we thank them. We also want to thank Tuscan Hall, and also Waukesha Floral, who provided the floral pieces. So if you get some flowers, get them from Waukesha Floral and tell them that I sent you there. Our next Celebrate Waukesha breakfast is Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, God willing. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. Don't forget to fill out your card. I guess I'm going to put myself out here a little bit. I already wrote down, what is the city of Waukesha's greatest strength? I wrote urban core of Waukesha County. What is the city of Waukesha's greatest challenge? To not spiral into expensive housing and high property taxes. So provide these, fill these out. We need the information. It will impact our plan, and also be a participant in our comprehensive plan. So thank you very much.